the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say what happens in the market. Let's say if the price was $1. At a price of $1, over here, I'm going to draw a dashed line to show that. Consumers would like to buy 8 gallons of milk, right? But at the price of $1, suppliers only wish to sell 1 gallon of milk, right? So here we are. Those decisions don't match. The consumer would like to buy 8. The supplier wishes to sell 1. So what you've got is a situation of what we call excess demand. That is, there is more demand than there is supply, right? So that's what you're seeing here. There's an excess demand of 7, right? Now, what you want to realize is that when there is an excess demand, it means that somebody was unable to meet their decisions, right? So in this case, here you are, you go to the market, people are trying to buy milk, and there's no milk in the store, right? The shelves are emptying. There's only 1 gallon of milk, there's none there, all right? And now something has to happen in this market. And that means if something has to happen, it means that somebody needs to be making some changes in decision making in order for a result to happen. Because, you know, the first and most important thing to think about is that changes happen when somebody can't meet their decisions, right? So when change happens, we say that you are out of equilibrium, right? So here is the second thing you want to figure out. Equilibrium, this is a word that economists use a lot, and it's taken from the natural sciences, actually physics, but other places as well. And essentially, equilibrium is a situation where something has come to rest. There is no additional tendency for change. So a situation of equilibrium, for example, would be when no more changes can happen, all right? But if there is going to be changes, the situation is not one of equilibrium. So that's all, right? This is important because when we go on, especially to places like macroeconomics, we're going to come across situations of equilibrium where markets don't clear, right? So unemployment, one of the big debates in macroeconomics, is this debate about what's happening in this market. Why is it not clearing, all right? But it's a situation of equilibrium. If the market cleared by itself, I wouldn't worry about unemployment, all right? So never assume that equilibrium is always a happy situation. All it means is no more tendency for change, right? But right now, because there is excess demand, somebody's decisions are not being met. I know things are going to change. So let's take a look at what happens. When there is excess demand, what starts to happen is that the goods are flying off the shelves, right? Guy comes to the market, he sells his gallon and he realizes that there are 5 more, you're in the farmer's market, there are 5 more people walking by your stall asking, hey, what happened to milk? Can I get more milk? What starts to happen is that you notice the shortage and excess demand. There's more demand than supply. It's a situation of shortages, right? So you notice the shortage and you start doing two things. You start raising prices because you figure, oh, lots of people want this stuff. I can raise prices. So notice here that the initial decision is coming from the side of the suppliers, right? And it could be that consumers also sometimes ask, you know, oh, I'll bid it up and so on. But unless you're in auction markets, usually the initial reaction doesn't come from the consumer, it comes from the producer who noticed the shortage. So usually when I go to Rite Aid and I see there's no milk, I don't come and say, oh, I'll pay you more for the milk. I don't do that, you know. I just like register, oh, there's no milk, you know. And then the people who are supplying milk notice the shortages and they start raising the prices, right? And then as they raise prices, the price starts creeping up. And as they do that, along the supply curve, so let's say the price goes from $1 to $2, then what starts to happen is this shortage starts shrinking, because as the prices rise, suppliers start increasing their supply, quantity supplied, and as the prices rise, consumers start cutting back their quantity demanded. All right? So when the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, step 2, I have a shortage or excess demand. Step 3, the price starts to go up. Quantity demanded starts to decrease, quantity supplied starts to increase, and this keeps happening until there is no more shortage. All right? So when there is no more shortage, at that point, the situation finally stops seeing all these changes in the price and in quantity demand and quantity supplied, and the market comes to rest. This we call equilibrium. This happens when quantity demanded exactly equals quantity supplied. Conversely, if we had a situation where the price was at $4, what you would see is that quantity supplied is way out here at 13, quantity demanded is just at 1. In this case, you've got a glut in the market. You've got an excess supply. There's way too much milk in the market, nobody's buying it. And producers find that they cannot sell their stuff. When that happens, they try and dispose of their stuff by starting to cut back on prices, by offering it more cheaply. So when you've got a situation of excess supply, which is over here in this case, an excess supply or a glut in the market, then again, usually what happens is it's the producers who experience, in this case, that they can't sell their stuff. They start lowering prices, they engage in price competition, and as the price drops, consumers start buying more. Less efficient producers find that the price is now not high enough for them. They start dropping out of the market. They start cutting back on what they supply. Quantity supply starts to drop. Quantity demanded starts to increase. And this process continues until the glut is eliminated. Quantity demanded exactly equals quantity supplied, and you are at equilibrium. So equilibrium takes place where quantity demanded exactly equals quantity supplied, right? That visually is going to be seen by the point where the curves cross. Right? So in this market, equilibrium will take place at a price of $2, where quantity demanded is 5, quantity supplied is 5. So producers want to sell 5, consumers want to buy 5, everybody's decisions are met, and that's the end of that. And that would be equilibrium. So over here, that is the equilibrium, right? The equilibrium price of $2 and an equilibrium quantity of 5 gallons, right? So in such a situation, what we're saying is that in an individual market where you have price competition and where you have relative responsiveness in this manner, usually equilibrium is going to take place where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. Just a reminder, just because it's the place where the curves cross, that's not why it's equilibrium. It's equilibrium because this is the situation where the market will come to rest. There's going to be many situations, and as we go through this quarter, and then for those of you who stay with me and take macroeconomics when you come to the next quarter, we will come to situations where the markets come to rest in places where the curves don't cross. All right? So do make sure that you pay attention not to the sort of technical place where the curves cross and so on. This is a story. It's a visually told story, but it's a story. And so you need to actually understand the story of equilibrium and the story of what it is producers are doing when they see a surplus, or what it is producers are doing when they see a shortage, what it is consumers are doing when there is a surplus or shortage, in order to understand why you end up there. Because if people don't do that, or if prices don't adjust in that way, or if somebody makes a decision that's just very different, right, then you won't end up reaching equilibrium in this way or in this location. So let's stop here now and take a minute to think of what we've learned. We've learned that the price mechanism in competitive markets, which is an assumption of how markets work, where there is relatively free entry and exit into the market, when you have situation where consumers are just focusing on the prices and not on anything else, and producers are just focusing on the prices and not on anything else, where the two groups are interacting purely through the market. In these situations, through price competition for an individual market, what we say is that equilibrium will take place when quantity demanded equal to quantity supplied, ceteris paribus.